sector. And that's one thing that is holding us back as we look at the sector that is contributing so much to our economy. So let me quickly turn to what we are doing to ensure that these constraints and bottlenecks are actually taken out and so that we can actually begin to see even more accelerated growth in the ICT industry. We have, with the support of Mr. President, there was a presidential committee chaired by Dr. Ernest Ndukwe, the former NCC chairman, former NCC executive vice chairman, and co-chaired by Jim Ovia, the founder of Zenith Bank. There was a presidential committee to develop a national broadband strategy and roadmap for this country. How are we going to move from 6% penetration that we have today to 30% penetration, which is what more developed countries have? That particular broadband strategy has been done. And that is really, the targets that we have there is that, without getting too technical, by 2017, we'll have 30% of this country, 30% coverage by 2018 by broadband. 80% of our population will have access to third generation networks, which are faster and better. There'll be fixed broadband to 16% of the population. We'll have a minimum speed of 1.5 megabits per second, and there'll be open, non-discriminatory access for all. We have started the implementation of that broadband plan, and I'm glad to say that there are a number of members. We set up a broadband council, because what many people say is that, oh, government is very good at developing plans, at making policies, but we just let them sit on the shelf. We're not going to let that happen, because this is so important. Mr. President gave his support and approval to set up a broadband council that is chaired by the Minister of Communication Technology, co-chaired by Dr. Ernest Ndukwe, and has a number of very distinguished Nigerians. Some of them are with me today to witness the signing of the MOU of the Broadband Council that meets every quarter to look at how we're progressing on this broadband plan, what are the bottlenecks, how do we ensure that we meet the targets we've set for ourselves by 2018. And I'm glad to say that we're making progress. We moved from 6% to 6.8%. It's a little, but it's progress, but it's like rolling a stone up a hill. The more momentum you gather, the faster it is that you can go. So we've had the spectrum auctions because of the mobile wireless connectivity. We're going to set up infrastructure companies that will cover the different regions of this country to ensure that we don't have those white spots we see. So they're going to be focused on developing ICT infrastructure in those particular regions. We have started an initiative called Smart States, and I'm glad to tell you that Bayelsa is one of the states that we have chosen to be a smart state to pilot this infrastructure with us. We have a universal service provision fund that basically what that does is to look at the areas that are unserved and underserved. And we're going to use that fund to support states where we see large parts of the population that are unserved and underserved. Again, Bayelsa State, we're going to partner with you in the TV white spaces where we can actually deploy unused spectrum to rural areas to help them to get connectivity. Bayelsa is one of the states where we're going to be piloting that in the next few weeks. And of course, very, very important, ICT infrastructure has become critical infrastructure. Before we came in here this morning, Your Excellency, the Governor took us to the Communication Command and Control Center of the Security Communication Network for Bayelsa State. Now, while there's a building in there, we can see all of Bayelsa State, we can see all the cameras. The fact of the matter is that this is being delivered by base stations, fiber that is out there. This is critical infrastructure. If a base station is shut down, if a fiber optic cable is cut, that security center there is useless because you can't see anything. And we need to get our governors to work with us to ensure that this infrastructure is protected, because it is critical national infrastructure. It is as important as power. Because basically what happens is that somebody can go into any base station in this country and just shut it down for whatever reason. And when you shut down a base station, you can shut down a whole section in a state. People go to fiber optic cables and they just cut them. Just cut them. What we have right now is a cybercrime bill that is being passed through the National Assembly. And with that bill, there are going to be consequences and penalties for vandalizing ICT infrastructure, because we need to keep this infrastructure up and running 24/7 because it has become a critical part of the development of this country. In terms of payment barriers, we're actually doing quite a lot there. People always say, NIPOST is actually under the Ministry of Communication Technology. People always say, oh, I thought we didn't post letters anymore. It is true that we don't post letters anymore, but what happens is that NIPOST has the largest retail infrastructure of any organization, be it a bank, whatever it is. Close to 2,000 postal centers and post offices that are located in about 2/3 of the local government in this country. We can use that infrastructure to support the logistics, the payment and the logistics aspects of the e-commerce value chain. We also need to support payment innovation. How do we get Nigerians to be confident? I have friends, very educated, very exposed. They wouldn't even have an ATM card. not to talk of doing internet transactions, because they're so afraid of what could happen to their money, because they just have no control of what happens once they get in this cyberspace. So ensuring that we have secure ways of actually conducting transactions on the internet. And I'm so pleased to say that one of the incubation centers we're supported a young Nigerian who developed a it's called a two-factor authentication system that makes sure transactions on the internet even safer than they are today. And we were supporting that particular individual. And like I said earlier, we're working with international bodies, the PayPals of this world, to ensure that Nigerians are not profiled when they get on the internet and when they try and do legitimate business on the internet. Just the next slide is about NIPOST. And again, this particular building here is actually in Bayelsa State. And the point I'm trying to make is that while we deliver to addresses in Yenagoa, we need to deliver to addresses in these kind of places as well, because they will also buy goods and services online. Like I said, the postal outlets have the largest and most widespread retail infrastructure. They have the largest logistics and warehousing infrastructure in this country today. And then we have also just finalized a national addressing policy that will actually standardize the addresses in this country. You know how we describe places in Nigeria. Or when you pass the mobile petrol station, after the woman that sells akara there, you turn right. That's how we describe addresses. But we need to get to a point where we actually have physical addresses, they're standard across the country, and we can use them in any state to deliver goods and services to Nigerians. It's a local government responsibility, but we're taking a coordinating role as a federal government to actually ensure that we have addresses all across the country. In terms of awareness and affordability, we're embarking on a digital awareness campaign. It's Imagine the Possibilities, that's our byline, do more on the internet. And we're going all around the states talking about the powers of the internet, talking about the benefits of the internet, and hopefully getting more Nigerians to come online and support the growth of these businesses. We're also taking some regulatory actions to ensure that we manage the cost of accessing the internet. We work with the network operators. We're bringing down the price of SMS. We have brought down the price of SMSs. We'll bring down the prices of internet connection as long as we have infrastructure out there. And we're also ensuring that we're collaborating with many of the MDAs in terms of bringing government online, and that's very important. Not having to come to Abuja or a particular state capital because you want to do business with government. And I'm happy to tell you that because of what we're doing in all the different MDAs, the FRSC, immigration where you can get a lot of your passport process online, Nigeria has moved by 20 places on the UN e-Government Development Index. In 2012, we were 162, literally the bottom of the pile. In 2 years, we've gone to 141. We're developing an e-government strategy that will take us to the top 50 by 2017. And the only way we can do that is if we build infrastructure in the states and we work with the states to bring many of their services online. Paying pensions to your civil servants, paying your salaries, using digital means, bringing all your forms for application of different government services, bringing all of them online will help us to actually be much better in terms of our e-government development index. We're doing a lot in terms of reducing the barriers in the operating environment. We are catalyzing the innovation ecosystem. There's one thing we're very sure about. Government cannot do business, and we're not going to go into the business of innovation. But what we're doing is that we're providing avenues for Nigerians to innovate. And it is very exciting what is happening by the little bits of money and the encouragement that government is putting in. This is just a snapshot of the things we're doing. There's the innovation center that we've funded. There's one in Calabar. There's one in the Tinapa village. There's one in Yaba. And there's 70 startup companies in these two centers. And many of them are graduating out of those incubation centers and they're getting venture capital. We also, let me just talk about Demo Africa. Demo Africa is the largest coming together of venture capitalists and application developers in Africa. It's been hosted in Nairobi for the last 3 years or so because Nairobi and Kenya are seen, and I see the ambassador to Kenya is here. Kenya is really seen as one of the IC sweet spots of Africa. But Ambassador, I'm sorry to tell you that Nigeria is going to take that place very, very soon. And we've attracted Demo Africa to come to Nigeria. What it is basically a competition of all the different app developers all around Africa. We had about over 200 applications came from Africa. There's a panel of judges that sat in our idea center in Yaba looking at who were the ones that were good enough to put in front of venture capitalists that come from all over the world. I'm happy to tell you that out of the 40 finalists that were chosen, 14 of them are Nigerian companies. And I'm even happier to tell you that out of those 14, 4 of them came from an idea incubation center that is facilitated by government. So it just shows you what is possible if we really take this seriously. I hope that Bayelsa State government will work with us, where you can actually set up an idea center here in Bayelsa State, where you can gather young people together who have all kinds of ideas on how we can innovate and really help the economy.